Don't suffer from a future that hasn't happened yet. Many people unfortunately end up in such a situation in which they imagine all sorts of things and they cause themselves all sorts of pain, mental distress, and all sorts of things because they would expect certain things to go in a bad way. If you are to think back in your history, for as long as you've been alive, how many of those times did they actually happen the way you've imagined them? Let's not forget that we kind of get to excel at creating the best, horror movies in our mind, imagining all sort of super scary outcomes out of nothing. There's obviously situations that can end up really bad and with a lot of bad consequences. But why not preserve the moment and, simply think at the moment, right? Because when one thinks of the moment, the present time, well, you don't need to worry about a future that hasn't happened yet. Sure, making a few plans is not a bad thing, but if you consume your present time thinking about the future, then most likely one doesn't get to live life. Because life lived in the future is simply of no purpose. Life lived in the imagination is like psychiatry. We're all imagining things, but if we allow imagination to take control of us, then that usually ends up in misery because we end up programmed by people, parents, school systems, neighbors, friends. We kind of get too programmed to simply focus constantly and only constantly on the negative. So when we always expect the negative, we can't say that's a good thing. It also becomes a bit frustrating because when you expect the bad things and it actually happens, you get a bit paranoia when you expect bad things and they don't happen, right? There's also a term for it which is called the fuckening. When you expect bad things, they don't happen, but they finally happen after, a certain time. So don't waste life thinking too much about the future. The future hasn't happened yet, and most likely there's still a lot of time. Whatever comes, well, most likely will also pass. So one needs not suffer uselessly. There's already a lot of suffering that people around you most likely are looking forward to causing you because there's a lot of ignorance. Ignorance equates to misery, and misery loves company. So if there are already people seeking to create pains in your life, then why do you need to aid them, right? All this being said, you are appreciated. Take care. Ferenc Board signing out.